decided that we're about to start our charcoal portrait drawings because I love teaching these. It's a step-by-step process. I'm going to show you every step of the way, but to start with, there's one main rule that you need to remember, and you need to remember this rule all the way through, and that is with this smidgy, smudgy, wudgy technique of charcoal drawing that I'm about to show you, you never use a line. You are never, ever, ever to draw a line. So you need to promise, Scout's honour, however you do that, can't remember, but I'm never, ever in this whole process going to make a line. And then you'll be okay. So, to start off with, you need a really clear black and white photographic image, one that has some good sense of chiaroscuro or darks and lights. And what I've got here is a photocopy of an amazing painting that was done by Vincent Fauntauzzo, who's an Australian artist, and I'm going to use a photocopy of his painting. Now it's better, if you're a beginner, that you use an actual photograph rather than a painting, but because I'm at home and I don't have access to a good printer, I just had to use what I've got. So this is what I've got. So thank you to Vincent Fauntauzzo. I hope I do your work justice because you're an incredible painter, as if you're watching, but anyway. So this is a portrait of the late actor Heath Ledger. He was an amazing actor. And so I've actually cropped it, so it's probably more like that, and I haven't got the hands on the outside. Because if you're a beginner, there's a couple of things that you should do in your first choice of image to draw. It has to be a high clarity image, which means it has to be really clear and up close. It needs to have good blacks and whites, so it needs to have some really deep shadows, some midtones, and some really light highlights. It also needs to have, perhaps be someone who's not too old or not too young. So if they're too old and they're wrinkly, that can be a really tricky thing to start with, and you don't want to start with something that's tricky. You want to take baby steps to get there. The other thing is a portrait photograph that has light in the eyes. So if you can see the eyes and they're open really clearly and they have light in them, that's something that's really amazing to capture in a drawing. So they're my tips for how you need to choose. And I like, time and time again, I've liked my students to actually draw a male. And the reason why is because sometimes you can get caught up in that whole aesthetic of makeup. So making the perfect eyebrow or making the perfect eye with the fake eyelashes or the luscious lips. And we're really not trying to do that. What we're trying to do is to forget all of those things that we've learnt about drawing in terms of when you teach yourself to draw and you draw like a child draws. And that's great. But for this, we're trying to forget that and we're trying to look at this as a different approach. So in that sense, the best place for you to start is with, I think, a youngish or middle-aged male, high clarity, lots of shadow with light in the eyes. That's what you're looking for, is a really good source image. So, and your source image is like 50% of your battle. If you have a good source image, you're going to have a good drawing 50% of the time. The other 50%, of course, is whether you follow the instructions and don't make a line. So this is what the drawing or the portrait looks like after you've drawn it up using the overhead projector or some kind of projector. So the thing about this technique is that you never use a line. Ever, ever, ever use a line. It's always a shape that's blended or a broken line. So you can see, if I go up close, there's all these little dashes and they're quite delicate. You don't want to do them particularly dark because this is willow charcoal, and willow charcoal, it's very unstable. You can virtually wipe it away, and if I was to use a rubber on that, I could probably erase the entire line. So this is our guide for our drawing of our charcoal portrait, the start of it. And I've just gone around the main shapes because I'm not drawing with the projector as such, but what I'm doing is I'm getting the proportions correct. So the distance between the eyes, where the tip of the nose ends, where the mouth starts, where the chin ends, the distance between the top of the nose and the top of the lip, all of those things are what make a portrait actually look like the person or the source image that you're using. And if you can get those things out of whack, even by just a millimetre, it can mean that your drawing of whoever this person is doesn't actually look like them. So that's why we use a projector. It's not cheating, it's actually just assisting that really fine area of having to, or that fine kind of approach at having to get those proportions correct.